with Alice in Chains. It's funny because so Lane Staley, their lead singer, was in a band called Alice in Chains.
Yeah.
Before the Alice in Chains that we know.
Yeah.
But it wasn't Alice in Chains with an IN.
Right.
It was just with an N.
Yeah.
Alice in Chains. You know?
Hip hop. No, just kidding.
Yeah. It was a cool thing to do at the time. You know what I mean? It's the 80s. You know, people were messing around with spellings and things, you know? So Lane was in a band called Alice in Chains. Then we got this guy, Jerry Cantrell.
You should have put a Z at the end of Chains.
Alice in Chains. 3 Z's. 3 Z's. That's the only way to do it. So Jerry... he was also living up in Washington, and he was going through a kind of a troubled time when he kind of moved up and started getting involved with, like, Lane.
Yeah.
So his mom and his grandma died within, like, 6 months of each other.
Yeah.
And he was obviously in kind of a bad spot in life. He was like homeless, like their family house got sold. Mm-hmm. He saw Lane's band when Lane was the singer. And he was like, this guy's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And then, like, a few months or weeks later, he just happens to run into him at a party, like a house party. And there's like 19 or 20 at the time, like still very young. Mm-hmm. And I guess Lane heard about what was going on with Jerry in his life. And he, just being like a really nice guy, he was just like, hey, like, I'm living in this rehearsal studio. You want to be my roommate? And Jerry's like, fuck yeah. Exactly. Like, I don't have anywhere to live, dude.
Yep. 3 hots and a cot.
So, yeah, that's how it goes down, you know? So they're living in this rehearsal studio, and Jerry's like, I want to start a band. I want you to be the band. But Lane's like, I'm already in a band.
Yeah. So
fucking deal with it. do something else.
Yeah.
So he's like, all right, well, I do have the number of a drummer that you should probably hit up. Mm-hmm. His name was Sean Kinney. Mm-hmm. And it was funny because before that, Jerry was actually auditioning for some bands with a bass player named Mike Starr.
Yeah.
And he hit up the drummer his number was given to him by Lane.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, we should jam. What kind of music do you want to do? And he's like, oh, I don't know. Like, you know, I got this friend who plays bass, Mike Starr. Maybe we can get him involved, like, see what goes on. And Sean, Mr. Kinney, he was like, oh, that's interesting, because Mike Starr is literally my best friend, and I'm dating his sister. And they're like, oh, fuck, maybe this was supposed to happen. Mm-hmm. Who knows? So they get together, and they jam, and they get together really well. And they needed a singer. Lane still wouldn't do it.
Right.
Because he was already involved with a different band.
Called Alice in Chains.
Coincidentally. So what they did was they started auditioning really shitty singers in front of Lane just to kind of piss him off. Just to kind of send a message to be like, dude, like, you know you're better than all these guys, right?
Right.
Apparently the last person that they had audition was a male stripper. Which is just funny. And eventually Lane was just like, fuck, all right, dude, I'll be your singer. Shit.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'll be your singer, but you have to join this other band that I'm in, or whatever he said to Jerry. And then Lane's other band, that ended up falling apart. Mm-hmm. So then now all 4 of them are together.
Yep.
And they're like, well, what are we going to call this? And they were like, well, what if, Lane's like, what if we called it Alice in Chains, like my old band, but with an actual IN?
Because they won't notice then, you know?
Nobody's going to tell, but we're going to know.
Exactly. It's like Clark Kent with the glasses.
It's a big difference. Mm-hmm. It's a very big difference. So he actually had to ask his old bandmates for permission to use the name.
Yeah.
As you should. That's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they get together and they're just fucking awesome. Jerry's a great songwriter, great guitarist. They're all great at their instruments. Lane has a fucking amazing voice. Mm-hmm. They get signed. They put out their first album, Facelift. Does really well. After that, this other band that we might have to talk about later, they put out an album that makes the whole kind of Seattle scene like way more prominent. Mm-hmm. Then Alice in Chains puts out an album called Dirt, which is way bigger because now the whole alternative thing is just like more mainstream, and they just keep putting shit out. They put out the Jar of Flies, which becomes the first EP ever to be number 1 on the charts. Unfortunately, Lane is getting super addicted to heroin at the time.
Yeah.
And after another album, he just kind of...
Yeah.
And he never really comes back.
No.
He passed away very young, unfortunately. But Alice in Chains continued. Fuck, why am I blanking on the new singer's name right now?
Not gonna tell you in this debate.
You tell me at home, people. William Duvall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ha. What's up? What do you got to say to now? Yeah.
I knew you'd get it at some point.
So he comes back, and then they're still making music. They're still around.